Well, hello. Welcome to Quilts and Other Happy Accidents. I'm Sherri. Today I am showing you 3 quilt tops and 2 quilts that I found in a tub that's been behind my sofa for 8 years and probably moved 3 times in the last 20 years. I remembered some of the things in that tub, but not all of them. Please share my memories and my discoveries. My favorite quilt top is the last one. Thanks for watching. So I'm actually showing you from bottom to top, and I'll explain why. But what was at the bottom was a true treasure. This is an antique quilt. My mother gave it to me many years ago. She doesn't really recall where it came from, but her grandmother was a quilter, so that's our best guess. And it's a beautiful quilt in actually pretty darn good shape. There's a few spots of wear here and there, but overall not bad. It is entirely hand-pieced and hand-quilted. And as I looked at some of these blocks, it's a mishmash of all sorts of things. Some of them are, I think, probably feed sack fabric. Some of them are shirting, probably. The squares are about 4 inches. The blocks are about 4 inches, which means these 4-patch blocks were tiny and hand-pieced. And funny enough, some of them, the blocks were so small, they were pieced again. So there's like scraps sewn together to make a block that's only 2.5 inches big. Okay, use what you got. I'm kind of embracing that myself. The yellow calico goes throughout. And then there's one border correction. There are 2 borders. The yellow calico has been added all the way around. But on the sides, there's this bit of kind of blue-green. I don't know if the quilt was the wrong size or if they just had extra fabric to use up. I have no way of knowing. But it is a beautiful antique quilt that came from somebody in our family, probably my great-grandmother, whom I've never met. Let me show you the next quilt I found. This is the next quilt I found in the bottom of that tub. Again, probably from my maternal great-grandmother. Very different style, though. Maybe this is where I got my love of curves, because this is clearly a curved pieced quilt. And there's only 3 colors here, and there's no border at all. But the binding is a different shade and fabric of blue than what's in the center. What I found fascinating about this quilt is, yes, it's still hand quilted, but in this primary block, the hand quilting does concentric circles that are about 1/2 inch apart. Then where this pink and blue are, the pink has a maybe 1/4 inch, as does the blue, and they've each got this line of quilting down the center. So this quilter spent a great deal of time and attention to detail. I don't know what the batting is in this. It has a batting. Because of the age of the quilt, it's pretty lightweight still. The back is muslin. I don't know how big this quilt is. It's laying on the top of my queen-size mattress, so probably for a full-size bed, but in really, really good shape. There's some stains along the edges, but I would expect that. Again, I have no idea how old this quilt is. Let me show you the surprise that was in my tub of quilts and tops. Well, this is neither a quilt nor a top. It's actually a shower curtain. Now, why I felt it was so important to save a shower curtain all these years is beyond me. And the old me would have just thrown it in the box to go to the thrift store. The new me looked at the tag. It's 100% cotton. This is going to get used. I don't know if it's going to become my dining scarves or if it's going to be a kitchen boa, but it's a pretty nice piece of fabric that I can definitely use. This is a quilt top that I made many years ago. I went through an artistic phase where I was using scraps but was trying to be very color conscious and aware of fabric combinations and contrasts. Let me tell you more about this quilt. This pattern is called the Lone Star pattern. The instructions came out of a magazine, quilting magazine, that I picked up at a thrift store. Now, we got this many, many years ago, and my best guess on when I made this quilt is about 2013, but this magazine was published in October of 1994. And it was the instructions to replicate this historic quilt. Now, as you can see, and I've mentioned many times before, I lean towards jewel tones and very bright fabrics, but I was able to use really good contrast in this and get color gradation. This quilt also used a lot of scraps out of Asian fabrics. I went through a phase of Asian fabrics in the early 2000s, and apparently I bought a ton of them. There are 10 different fabrics in this star, and really the piecing on it was pretty simple. It was strip pieced and then cut on the diagonal. There's 3 borders on it. The gray has 1 border, then I've got a batik border, and then another gray border. Now, the really good news about this quilt is I had the foresight to save the gray so I can make the binding on this. I don't always have that foresight, so I really appreciate the earlier me that thought about these things as they were packing up and probably getting ready to move again. We've moved a lot. This is a beautiful quilt. And I don't know why I never got it quilted. I really don't. I don't have Asian fabrics or Asian designs in my home, but I think I could still use it anyway just because it's so stunning. That's just my opinion. You may disagree. Interestingly, I've used this pattern another time. I made my son's patriotic quilt, which you can see in the family trunk show video. This quilt is pretty good sized. It's 83 inches square. And as I said, the best I can guess is I made it around 2013. Let's see the next treasure I found. Many years ago, I discovered curves and I started quilting curves. Love quilted curved blocks. This is a variation on the Winding Ways or Wheel of Mystery block. The black in the center is the Winding Ways or Wheel of Mystery block. The other is a sashing and a variation on a block I really can't remember right now. As I said, I was very into Asian fabrics and was in a very artistic phase. Now, I want to show you this fabric. When I bought it, I did not realize that it would read like a stripe. And that means there's lines in it that I had to start thinking about, especially when I put together these corner blocks. As you can see, some of them line up, but some don't. So I got better at it as the quilt went along, but I could have done a better job even at that with some more fussy cutting and awareness. I absolutely love the colors in this quilt. This quilt measures 87 inches square. It has two borders, the green and then that stripe, and it probably shows more as a stripe in the border. But I even cut the corners so they're rounded. Let me zoom in on that so you can see it. I was able to use the rounded pattern pieces and create this rounded corner to stay in character of all the curves that are in this block. I haven't done that on very many quilts, but I did on this one, and it worked really well. Now, my introduction to winding ways was from this book, Wheel of Mystery Quilts. It has a 2006 copyright, and the author is Helen Marshall. I actually ended up buying all of the templates for the different sizes for this quilt, and I've made a gazillion of them. Well, a gazillion might be an exaggeration, but I've made many. I didn't have to buy the templates. In the back, there are templates available. But this was my introduction to the Wheel of Mystery quilt, and it's pretty easy compared to some curved quilts, and it's pretty forgiving. As I said, my best guess was I made this about 2010. I'm framing these dates based on when I moved from one place to another, and I know where I made it, so that gives me a frame of reference on timing. Again, I did save fabric to use for the binding. Go Sherri. Let's see the next one, which is the one that's most near and dear to me. This quilt top is so special to me. My my paternal grandmother, Doris, lived a quarter of a mile from us as I grew up, and she and I became great friends, and I miss her terribly. And when she passed, I wanted to make a quilt out of her clothes. That's really all I wanted. But being the farmer's wife and Depression era person she was, her clothes were threadbare. But we found a bag of her fabric scraps from the clothes that she had made, and they were all in like new condition. And there were years and years of fabric scraps in there. And of course, nobody in the family wanted them but me, and I did my very best to put them to good use. The background fabric I purchased and is a light paisley print. She loved paisleys. As you can see from some of the fabrics here, she had a lot of paisleys. She also enjoyed florals and earth tones and greens. Let me tell you more about this quilt and show you some pictures of up-close blocks. I signed up for a block of the month club at our local quilt shop, and they were featuring a quilt from the Quilters Newsletter magazine that was published in 2004. They used to do a series of blocks, so you could do a block of the month. And this one was called Hearts and Apron Strings. And I used all the fabrics I could and made all the blocks I could. There was a lot of different sorts of blocks. The center of this quilt is a variation on a Dresden block, and it is a turned applique. I've never done another one of these. I love the memory of this. She had made a bag for her clothespins because, of course, for years and years she dried her clothes out on the line. And this one is from a shirt. This one is from one of her nightgowns. So is this one. I love visiting this memory of her. She made my wedding dress too. After the center block, there was just a series of 9 patch blocks, which I did a lot of just piecing because I didn't have big pieces of anything, so I couldn't strip sew them or whatever, and just really lots of scrappy little blocks. This is some shirting, as is this and this and this. The next round was a raw edge applique, and this is just beautiful. She loved gardening. She loved flowers. We shared a lot of those interests. I'm more of a vegetable gardener, but this is the doves and the hearts and the tulips on the corners here. These last rows out were just really simple pieced blocks. Some of them were set on point, so there's a lot of half, quarter squares. I don't know what to call those things. And I ran out of fabric before I could do the scalloped edge that was supposed to be part of this quilt. But I don't mind because this top has such strong memories. I remember when I was making it, there were some days even handling the fabric just made me so sad. I had to stop. I had to put it away for a while. Again, this is called Hearts and Purse Strings. It's from an old series. It's 86 inches square. I knew this quilt top was in that box, and maybe that's why I didn't open it for so long. My grandmother's been gone 20 years now, and I think it's time to finish this quilt and start really just enjoying the memories. I'm not going to free motion quilt this one myself. I'm going to send it and have it quilted. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching my reveal of some surprises and some really fond memories. Thank you so much for watching.